to the Mantic Universe podcast for our July Hangout. I am here with Vicky Dave.
Hi, everyone.
And this is your host, Matthias. And we are now in a very, strange position for now because I'm in the middle of a heat wave. Vicky Dave's sitting there in winter in New Zealand. He's cozy and cold in the morning while I am preparing for the night. So time zones and continents let things have its crazy time this year.
It's a Southern Hemisphere kind of burden because we're always the opposite. And so we never, we're talking about this earlier, like whenever they say that like the summer, where this gets released in the summer or all that, we're all confused. It's all topsy-turvy. We have to translate it for you guys, Northerners. They run off, silly time.
Yeah, it's also, Dave also lives a little bit in the future, so he's there. So he already woke up the morning I going to sleep now, so...
Yeah, it's 6 a.m. in the morning on a Sunday for me.
Yeah.
And I think it's like still Saturday night for you.
Yeah. So it's so we both have coffee, but for different reasons, and it's...
Yes.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Indeed. Yeah, I haven't even taken my ADHD meds, so you're going to see like unrestrained impulse, no impulse control, Dave.
It's a good thing. It's but we're having podcast go today, so it's
exactly.
Right. So and I think everything is going well so far.
Yeah, I mean, I've just got my Noble team models, and I'm actually, as we're going to be talking, I'm going to be gluing them up. So if you know, that's going to be my task during this entire thing is slowly build them because I accidentally glued my fingers together the other day when I was doing them. So I'm going to give it a go now where I'm actually... Yeah, you'll see. I hate that super glue feeling you get on your fingers. My girlfriend loves it because she loves peeling it off, but I can't say I'm a fan with it.
It's a tricky thing. The peeling off feeling is better with PVA or white glue or wood glue.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Definitely, and for the super glue, it depends a little bit on the brand because I have the more liquid ones are easier to... There's some of those that get easier off the skin than others. And for models, it depends a little bit how you work. If you want to have the gel or the more liquid ones, it's... Yeah. I mean, I have tried
Gorilla Super Glue. I don't know if that's anything.
That's not something that we have here. But I have tried 4 or 5 different brands and not happy with any of those. The only thing I recommend now is getting smaller ones instead of the big ones.
Yeah.
Because I tried with I think the standard brand that we here have is the Loctite. That comes with different composition depending if you want to glue metal, rubber, or normal plastics. And they come in bigger bottles. And I usually have to throw half the bottle away each time, and now I started to get...
Is it just because the top gets like sealed?
Yeah.
It
gets sealed, it dries out, it's...
Yeah. A lot of that with the Warhammer glue. You get that a lot. What's the old one? Now they've got that needle thing that sticks out, but back in the day, they didn't used to do that. And I used to cut off the top, which just makes the problem worse. But yeah, I can that's happened to a lot of my glues. And it's weird it took us so long for manufacturers to figure out a better way of doing that.
And I think I am more just checking if it's the one I have here. Like I got those small Loctite metal tubes. They have 3 grams. They're free in a bag, and usually they hold long enough, or I use up enough that I don't waste a thing, and the price is about equal to the bigger bags, so it's not a big difference that you save a lot with throwing half of the other thing away. And
I'm the kind of person as well to like keep using something until it's like completely gone. And so I get stubborn with that kind of stuff and try and make it work to a point where I probably should just give up. I should have thrown it away a long time ago. But I think it's just
it's just glue. We should get used to it to not use up everything. But then at the same time, it's I bought it. I want to use it. There's still something in there that can be useful, and yeah.
I think it's just the natural modeling as well. You tend to keep like all the pieces of your model, like even on the sprues of stuff you don't use. You tend to try and keep everything, you know, and just because you've always got this idea that you're going to use it later on for a conversion or something like that. You never do.
I mean, you never do. You do a lot. The only thing that I am now doing with the sprues, and I just have to clean things up here, is because people use those modeling handles that are getting away, but I like to do with some sticky butterfix things to use the sprues. I got the models off, then get the models on the sprue for priming and things like that, and then it's like, so not throwing those away. So you
don't even throw away the sprues. That's a lot smarter than how I do it. I just get a cardboard box and just some blue tack. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, I mean it's either super glue or blue tack on the sprue, and this works. It's get my mind a little bit eased up with not throwing the sprues away and things. It's so I still make use of it before they go into the bin. So it's
that's a smart idea. I should really do that. But I guess with the Halo ones, they don't come in sprues, so so I guess I can still do it the old way. Yeah, you have to admit, well, with the Halo stuff, the Halo models, they definitely have improved since the first, the Spartan edition. It's just seeing how far they've come with them, even just with this Noble team. Even though Noble team is a little bit of a exception there, just because it's a special edition and they put a lot of effort into those particular models. It's just surprising to see how far they've come with them. But yeah, definitely no sprues on those, thank God, because that would have been a mess to assemble.
Yeah, I think the using the mastercrafted resin for Halo is a big plus. All for people, how to say, they are expensive.
Yeah,
but for a reason. So it's really just going having lower quality on the models for them to being cheaper or getting them more expensive. But so it really depends what you want from the models and what you think. Like when you have those who want it for cheap can still go with the PVC ones.
Yeah.
You don't.
I think they're doing well. They're on the right track with it, and it'll be interesting to see because now that this came out last month, so we don't include in the news, but all the grunts and the jackals, now that we're getting that introduced, and now they've renewed the license. I don't think you mentioned this last week.
Yeah,
is that they have renewed the Halo license as well, so it means that they're going to continue with it, and they've mentioned games with an S, and we will talk about one of the games that they have announced in the last month.
We can cover this right away if we're going into Halo anyway, and I can use the sound effects.
It's time for the news.
And because there are so let's us having fun with sound effects here. Let's try this one out. So Halo got the big news is they got the license renewed. The second big news is Halo get a new game. So an actual Halo computer game is coming, or a new mode or whatever. The campaign involved is something was announced. I'm not that big into Halo that actually know a lot about it.
I am. I've got the Halo helmet right over here still. Hold on. I've got my Halo helmet. This is my Halo helmet right here. So I know a lot about it. So basically, I believe at the end of this month, which is July for those listening, they're coming out with a remake of the original Halo, another remake of the original Halo. Yeah. So it's got Halo, and then we had, they remade Halo. Now it's Halo Campaign Evolved. There's no multiplayer. It's purely just the campaign, and they're adding in 3 additional missions that are technically canon outside of the main campaign. I think the idea is that they happened before the events of the game, and he wears a different armor. I think it was like a Monya 4, I think, armor. So it's the armor style less than the armor style that he's wearing during the first original game with Sergeant Johnson. And so that's coming out at the end, and it looks like this game sounds like a tie-in, which is odd. They're not saying a lot about the game, considering it's coming out at the end of the month. So,
question is if they're allowed to say something, because with a license, it's always the question is what are they allowed to do, and what is restricted by the license holder, and so... This is always.
What do you think a month out, though? You would think they want to get pre-orders, get the excitement around it of what's actually in it. And considering the Jackals and the Grunts aren't being released until September, I mean, technically they haven't announced when this is coming out. I just know the actual game itself is coming out at the end of this month. And the game itself being the video game.
Yeah. So there might be... I mean, it also depends on how far... in the past, Mantic knew about those things. So how much the license holder told them about this thing could also be that they didn't know anything before the license was renewed. And depending on the new contract, this was like something from the license. So there's always a big four of what Mantic wants to do, what they are allowed to do, what the license holder wants them to do. And this is all things that we don't know, and we can guess, like what I think also the model size and how big each model and things like that. This is some, or what styles the models are, is also restricted to a point from the license holder. So, Mantic,
do you think it's going to be like a Dungeon Saga kind of just reskin?
Maybe. I mean, if this is so the Halo, the actual Halo game that is coming is the single player campaign of the original Halo. With new missions.
With the 3 additional levels added on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So having a solo play or cooperative board game as a tie-in would actually work well. Because you have your PvP game already with Halo Flashpoint, and then you just add a cooperative game in to play through the similar mission. So it can't be identical, because then the question is why you play the board game instead of the computer game, or vice versa. So there need to be a little bit things a little bit different.
So based off the news article, so it says it's launching in the fourth quarter of 2026, which, to be honest, who knows what that really means nowadays. Do you mean the fourth quarter as in the actual year, fourth quarter of the year, or like in a financial year? Who knows? It's just people talking weird language when they talk about quarters. But it says it's designed from 1 to 2 players. So specifically they said 1 player. So I'm guessing it's definitely a solo adventure intended. And it is built around Master Chief's iconic adventures. So I'm guessing this game is specifically about the actual campaign of the first game, of the first Halo game. So this game as well. But I've got a feeling they're probably going to build it in a way that it's a bit of a bridge, kind of like how Kings of War Champions is a bridge into the actual Kings of War game.
Yeah.
I think this board game could be a good jumping off point to actual Halo Flashpoint, in the same way Halo Flashpoint's probably going to be a good jumping off to whatever the big version or the Fireteam version of Halo is going to be as well. So it's kind of like a pushing thing. So could be in the future, this could be the entry point for everybody, and then Halo Flashpoint is the next step up, and then going forward. So they could be doing something like that.
I mean, and just reading the news article now, how big is it actually that the campaign Evolved is coming to PlayStation?
Yeah, it's coming PlayStation for the first time. It's kind of Xbox, obviously Xbox, PC. I know they want to go back to exclusives, but I think this one's going to be released on PlayStation.
Yeah. Yeah, might be the first time I play a Halo game. Then it's getting interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I've still got my original Xbox. I think it's actually in the other room of when I played of my original Halo when I bought it in 2001. I've still got that. So I've been a massive fan of Halo. I think I've still got the actual... Well, here it is. This is my original Halo game. Original Xbox Halo game.
Okay.
Still got it from all those years ago. So, I mean, I think it's going to be big. It's going to be interesting. I did like how I think this is also a very good sign of Halo Studios embracing what Mantic has been doing. The funny thing is, I've been seeing over the past year, especially in the Halo community, and when Halo Flashpoint is mentioned, it's not mentioned a lot, but when it is mentioned, a lot of people refer to it as the only thing in the Halo franchise at the moment that is working, which is a massive compliment,
Yeah.
or or not, because it's either a really good compliment or it's like, well, it's at the bottom of the barrel here. We're scraping it, and so it's like, oh, there's one thing floating, or finally something good. But I always found it fascinating that some of the fire teams were incorporated into to Halo Infinite that were in Halo Flashpoint, and a lot of people don't realize that you can actually get the emblem of the original fire teams that were in the Spartan edition. You can actually get that in Halo Infinite. So there always has been a really good meshing there. And I think now that Mantic's proven that they can do it, and now that there's so many people still on board and think the game's going in a really big direction, it's going to be interesting to see, one, they can keep that up, or they're not going to pull a Lord of the Rings and kind of screw up all the rules and wipe all the factions and so forth. And just constantly evolve with the community along with the game, and not get too ahead of themselves as well. Make sure you keep your finger on the pulse with it, because it's so easy to lose that.
Wanting too much too fast can screw everything up. It need to be a natural progression with things like going. I mean, the advantage from Mantic here is that they have the games already, so they Flashpoint is based on Dead Zone. Dead Zone is in its third edition, so all the small beginner problems for first edition are already moved away. The second edition cleanup already happened, and then they go with Flashpoint right away. So they know what they're doing. Though they still need to test the waters on how fast things are releasing and how many things people actually demand, because it's always the question is, do people, because it starts like with 2 factions or 1.5 faction in the beginning. Does this work? Is there demand for other factions? Are people waiting for Marines, or are they jumping straight in? Are going people to have 3 or 4 different factions, or everyone just focus on their one they love and things like that? So on all those depending, you can release things faster just to get all those factions out for people to actually start in, or wait a little and let people collect and naturally progress with what, so that doesn't feel overwhelming. And
I mean, there's so many directions they can go with it as well, because they seem to be keeping with the modern timeline at the moment. So that's with the Banished and with the Spartans. But with Noble Team going back to Reach, I mean, that's when they're starting to go a little bit backwards. So we could see the Covenant, which is a lot of people want. And the difference between the Banished and the Covenant is the Banished are more brute centric. So they're all about the brutes, and they're kind of leading the pack when it comes to that particular faction. But the Covenant has all the races kind of meshed in, and so including the Prophets and so forth. So, and they've got a different aesthetic as well. They're not so many reds, they're more the blue side on purples. And so going to that, so you could have the Covenant, you could have Banish, you can have the Forerunners, you can have you can even go back to the ancient humans, and you can also go back to the insurgents as well. And that was, the reason why the Spartans exist was to fight the insurgents, because the Covenant hadn't been discovered yet. So there's so many places in the lore they could go with it and have a bit of fun with. It's just a question of whether they're allowed to do it. And I think if they keep on going the direction they're going, respect the community, respect the actual brand itself, I think they can do well. I think as long as they're not oversaturating the market, I think their release schedule is great. I think the 3 month, it's about a 3 month gap where they're having some kind of release. I think that's enough time for people to get their head around it. I worry about them doing too many releases too quickly, because from a financial point of view, you can't afford that. I mean, if they were releasing like a big box every single 3 months, there's no way anyone could realistically keep up with that, especially in modern time financial kind of things. But the fact that they're doing one big box, and then the next release is something smaller, like a Noble Team, or just a smaller kind of release, and then a big one again, I think that's the right way to go about it. without feeling like if you want to keep up, you got to be rich, and you don't want that mentality. I think that puts off.
Yeah, that's definitely to avoid. I think one problem that is usually is that there are people who are playing a lot. I mean, there are really those who play a lot, and when you have like a game twice or three times a week, it gets boring faster than for those who just play once a month. So then it can happen that for the other ones it's already way too fast because they get the new release before they even played the old one, and the other one is demanding something new because they played everything out what they can. It's getting a bit tricky in here, but
yeah, I think that actually is a good segue over to the Kings of War releases, because they've got a similar-ish release kind of schedule at the moment.
Yeah.
I'm trying to give a segue there. Otherwise, I could be talking about Halo for the next,
about Halo
45 minutes.
No, we got an interesting for Fracture. We have already mentioned this in our Fracture review. We got a new Vault release. So we have with Fracture
So we should actually say the book came out this month. We should say that the book actually came, and with it came the STL releases.
So the book was released. Not everyone has their books yet. Like, I'm still waiting for mine.
Mine arrived 2 days ago. It's right here.
Yeah.
Let's see if you can hear it. Yeah, that's me flicking it. The new book smell as well. So it smells good.
So I can now make jokes about Southern Hemisphere receiving the book earlier than me in Central Europe, but it's like I don't know whom to blame here.
Do you get just out of interest? Do you get the English version?
Yeah, there is no German version for Fracture, so I have to get the English version. And
okay, that makes sense.
This time I ordered directly, or I got it direct. I will get it. Hopefully directly from Mantic this time, because the last time I ordered from a local shop, which then the order got delayed because the local shop only got his shipping after it was already released. So it's the 2 weeks until it gets to the shop, and then another week until it gets to me. So I hoped it's earlier this time, but well, it happens.
I ordered it from Mantic, so I don't know why it's taking you so long. But
I think it is because I ordered a lot just to get over to make the shipping worth it, and so it might get delayed because for other reasons. But I have to ask them on Monday what's going on.
I ordered the Noble Team at the same time, hoping to get it quicker. I tend to get stuff a lot quicker if I order multiple stuff from different games. That's my little secret.
It's maybe because I only ordered Kings of War stuff, so it might be this.
That could be it. I ordered, I got the Noble Team, got the book, and also got a playing mat as well.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe next time I need to order some Halo stuff as well, and see if shipping is fair.
Yeah.
Right. So the tie-in with the Fracture release, it's we got a Vault release with the 3 special characters. Let's go into this one first. So we got 3 named characters in Fracture that didn't have models before and have no new models so far because they got STL releases, and the first one is Flexhoof, the special herd centaur.
I will kind of correct you a little bit. I got this model a while ago because it was on discount, but this was the original Flexhoof model. It was that guy. Okay. That was her, and because Flexhoof came out during the Edge of the Abyss campaign, and this was the model they used. It's a metal one. They reused it as the Centaur Chieftain. They stopped naming it Flexhoof, but that was the original. It wasn't really designed for Flexhoof. It was kind of like they used it for Flexhoof, but they also used it for the Centaur Chieftain.
Yeah.
So that's what they. You can't really see it very well. Look on the wiki. Look at the wiki if you want to proper look.
It's over there. Yeah. I mean, it's the metal model. That's why everyone has forgotten about it.
Exactly.
But we got a new one in SSDL. So call up a printer near you and get it printed, or have a printer yourself. and I like it. We
I think
got
it's
it.
a good spin on making centaurs look more unique and
Yeah.
mantified. You could say, because they definitely don't now look like a human body on a horse body. It kind of now actually looks like a creature, a full-bodied kind of creature. And so I like it. I think it's not much. It doesn't really scream out this is a unique one, but I think it really kind of adds the personality towards Flexhoof than him just being a
It has a
human on a horse.
slightly different bows than the plastic ones, so you can't improvise the identical model from the plastic set, which is a good thing. So you get, even if you don't use it as a flex hoof, you get another unique model to add to the plastic ones, if you
Yeah.
want those. The mantified version of the Centaur, the important part that we also discussed a little bit with Danny, is that they have those two-handed weapons, which is something that you never gonna use on a horseback. You don't use two-handed weapons when mounted, because they don't work that way, because you always have a horse in your way to actually use them, which
Yeah.
a Centaur doesn't have, because the front part of the horse that is in the way to make the most use of a two-handed weapon or a maul that you swing in front of you isn't there. So this is like a nice addition. I think that makes them a little bit different to others, because like a centaur with a lance and a shield would be boring. Giving just a sword and a shield or something like this as a human would fight as a cavalry is different. But in that way, you have this a weapon that makes no sense for any other cavalry model, but a lot of sense for a centaur.
Yeah, I agree. And also, when you look at it, it definitely still keeps the idea of the origins of what a centaur is. So,
Yeah.
centaurs, fawns or whatever, however you want to pronounce the way that they spell them. Now, there are Wicked One creations. So essentially, the Wicked One pretty much were taking things like creatures together, meshing them together, and then just seeing what race pops out. And this is still has that feeling of that it's mixing a horse and another creature together into this abomination. So it keeps that feeling, and they could have made the whole body look completely different, but you can clearly see it is still a horse.
Yeah.
Attached,
I think this is
like meshed together.
This is something that we miss a little bit with the Kings of War releases in general, is the tie-in with the lore, because people, how do I say, Kings of War is still a rules first game for most of the people out there, so they don't have expectations based on the lore they have read. So if someone reads what the herd is in the lore, they would expect something very different than when they just hear about beastmen, herd, fauns, satyrs, or satyrs, centaurs. So if someone hears centaur and he expects something very different than when he reads the actual lore of the herd.
I think it's important for Mantic to be out, because I mean, for so long, Mantic has always been seen as it just Warhammer, but you got Warhammer at home kind of deal. The same armies that just kind of, repurposed, and so I think with third and now even more with fourth edition, I think Mantic is really stamping their own identity on the fantasy world, and they had started to do that with the third edition in terms of the lore, but now with the fourth edition, they're really using the models to you should be using the lore to facilitate the game, and the game to facilitate the model and the lore. You really need a really good meshing of it. It's quite hard to get, considering how big the franchise is now. It's spread across multiple games, but you can really see that the identity starting to pop through, that you could look at this model and go, yes, this is a Mantic kind of centaur. And it, again, going back to what the old chieftain that it looked like, it's definitely on the right path. So I saw this, and I think it's definitely a good improvement over what we have been seeing.
I mean, it's like you said, the herd are the creatures, or the wicked one tried to experiment with the different creatures available to create a fighting force that follows them. They created the orcs, they created the herd, the naiads as well, to pronounce that not correctly as it should be.
It sounds right. If it sounds right, that's the philosophy I go under. If it sounds right, you're good.
No, because I always, how to say, sometimes I get to think about it would maybe sound better in German, and then it's that naiads, I would say naiden. But yeah, international podcast, I can get red with both. It's
just call them fish people. There you go. I just like a lot of the time, if I can't pronounce something, I just make up a nickname for them. Like, especially with people's names, I just try and make it look like I did it on purpose.
I would just have called that trident infantry to get away with pronouncing
just
it
fish
wrong.
People. Just say fish people. It'd be easier.
Yeah. But those are the things. So it's a different lore behind the creation thingy, and therefore the models look the way they look. So it's not like the Mantic is trying to do them different just for the sake of being different, but they already have a lore for the models. They have artworks, and so the new stuff is like based on things that were established in second edition. And so everyone who would follow the lore would have known what to expect, and not being surprised that they are not just mutated humans, because the other game, or in Warhammer lore, when beastmen are, that's the other thing. In Warhammer, I think they changed that a lot over time, what they actually are, because when I started with the game and the first novels I read, beastmen were just because there is warpstone dust in the air, and those who got too close to magic mutate and then deform, and then when children deform, they get thrown out into the woods to survive, and then became beastmen and things like that. And in the most recent lore, this is very different. So there's not. So Kings of War is a little bit more consistent in that regard. So there's like.
I mean, being the lore nerd that I am with it now, I do get. I'm actually on a lot of the lore as well, but I do think it's definitely staying consistent, especially with some of the origins of species and so forth. I think now that we've kind of established the timeline when the noble races were created, like the dwarves and the elves and the humans, and what races came out of the God War as well. I mean, we're even talking about now hobgoblins, which is quite interesting in the recent book. Just a bit of a spoiler for those. There are hobgoblins mentioned, and then names of the hobgoblins as well. It's that's the good thing, and I think now they're really using that lore, incorporating it into the game. And there's nothing to. You shouldn't restrict the game because of the lore. But you should also find ways to make the lore work for the game as much as you can. And I think they're starting to find a really good balance with that.
Yeah, definitely. And talking lore, we have two more characters. The one is Orion and the other one is Estelle, which are from the novels. So I think Estelle is already there in Step of Deliverance. She's
from Steps in Deliverance, Heroes Fallen, and Last Light.
Yeah. So I think they call it on the homepage the Arc of Light series with 4 books.
Yeah, the Arc of the Sacred Light. So the Sacred Sacred Arc. So Sacred Arc is the actual Paladin order that Orion belongs to.
So this is also something that we got recently, just because previously we had those. The very old books are still named as Tales of Mantica. Then things were renamed to Tales of Banithor as the world evolved. And now within the Tales of Banithor, we have standalone novels and book series. So I think Step of Deliverance was already released back in the days, it was still called Tales of Mantica when it first came out.
Correct, yeah.
And it evolved now in a series of 4 books that tie together, and which is something very good, I would say. It also shows how the lore evolves and that it's worth reading the novels and things like that, because now you have 4, or at least 4 Basilia novels to read to know your characters you want to put into the game.
Yeah. So yeah, that's written by Mark Barber, and we should also mention there's another book coming out that will have Orion in it, called Blaze of Sarek. Sarek. That's the next book to come out. It's not part of the series because the series kind of closed with the last light, but it's supposed to be going to be tying in to the summer campaign that's going to happen later. But yeah, Wing Tsar kind of published when these books have first originally come out. It should be also stating that there wasn't any tie-in. The tie-in between the books and the table was very kind of separate. It was still, all the events in the books were still canon. There wasn't just a lot of crossover. And I think these are, Wing Tsar created characters, you could say, from the books that are now showing on the table to really show that this world is becoming definitely an extended universe, connected world, that you can actually go back and read this book that was written, I think it was in 2014 or something like that. It was written a while ago, and have these characters now tie in with what's on the table. Because, for instance, Estelle, from a canon point of view, she's not a human. She's a half Eli, basically half angel. So I think her mother or father was an angel. I think her father was an angel. And so she is actually not human. And it's quite interesting having that tie-in in her story and on how it goes on. So it's really cool seeing these characters go through it.
For those listening and not watching, you will find all those pictures on the Mantic quote as well. But for Estelle, something that Martin pointed out, because he knows her from Steps of Deliverance, and she is standing on steps on her base, which he found kind of funny to have it and sees it as a reference to her first novel she appears in. So it's...
Yeah, for the record, Steps of Deliverance isn't got to do anything to do with physical steps. Steps of Deliverance is what the sisterhood go into. Basically, every sisterhood member gets kind of ranked either on their first step, second step, third step, all the way to sixth step throughout the entire career. And sixth step is basically you getting exiled from the sisterhood. Step 4 and 5 are typically you've done wrong and you're trying to make amends and get out of it. So that's how the whole Steps of Deliverance actually means. It's not a physical step, and I think that's why a lot of people get a bit confused. But it's actually really interesting, that lore being built in now into the actual books and so forth. So it's cool that I didn't actually pick up on the whole she is stepping, but I think it's a nice little kind of nod to it.
Yeah, I mean it's also a nice use of a tactical rock in form modelings. In this case it works from a lore point of view, and it's not just there because you need a rock standing on there. So.
And I think also just because my lore nerdness is coming out a little bit, Estelle and Orion will live longer than a normal human. So these are going to be characters that will be with us for a while. And if you've read the books, you understand why Orion gets to live a little bit longer. But ultimately, there's a good chance we could see them coming in 5th, 6th edition in terms of the timeline, because they are trying to push the timeline along with every edition and every book and so forth. But these are the characters we'll have for a while. So if you are invested now, it's a good thing, because that means that you can really watch this journey of these characters go along, and building legacy characters in a franchise. It's what makes a franchise, really.
Yeah, so this is like a big difference to Warhammer or for as a Warhammer Fantasy or 40k or Age of... I'm not sure if Age of Sigmar is also static, but I think they are progressing the timeline as well. But I'm not I have read not much after first edition, so don't know what they are really doing there. Yeah, but what they get a problem with them is things is it's a static setting with everything that is there has always been there, and anything new character that is there has always been there, and while the other
Didn't they do that with the
big,
old world, if memory serves me right?
yeah, I mean old world is also kind of I don't know, they are progressing the
I'm pretty sure they're
years.
static.
No, the
They're static, but the factions that are introduced aren't canon or something like that. There's some weird rule with it.
no
But
old
either
world
way,
has
it just shows the difference.
it's no old world is it's a little bit tricky there because it's like they are retelling the past, so you know what's actually, or more or less depends if GDub is sticking to the known canon or not, or ignores it. But they like progressing. Each new book release is a year or 2 year, 3 years further down the timeline, and they are retelling the story that already happened. So it's basically just fleshing out an campaign, if you want to know that. While in BattleTech would be the other big franchise where you have a progressive timeline, where we have now, I think about
I like that. I like the idea of progressive timelines. I think that that allows also the game to be more refreshed as well. If the time, like Zocali is a good example of that, being able to introduce a faction there and be able to show what they're capable of doing with that, with stories and so forth. It's just sad that sometimes you have to watch some characters sadly die, which we saw in the Argument of Stone, which I'm not going to spoil here, but there's a particular character who has been in the Mantic universe for a while, since the Mantic Journal 1, all the way back before even first edition was released. And just seeing a character like that die actually gives a little bit more realism to the world, but also shows that, we're building a legacy. We're building an actual history of a world here, which in a few years' time, even 10 years' time, when you look back on it, you're going to have all these characters come and go like a proper world. And I think that's really important for a franchise to exist, especially in modern day where people get so invested in their worlds and their franchises. Marvel's a good example of that. People are so passionate about it, but you can do it in a smart way and also a financially stable way. And I think that's the key thing for Mantic as well, to be able to show that you can still be successful.
It also shows that they are planning ahead, because you don't have a progressive timeline when you don't plan out your releases, your development of said timeline years ahead, because they cannot.
Yeah.
A novel takes time to write, a book takes time to develop, models take time to design. So having just a character cannot get out within a week because you change something up. You have to have planned that thing all along for a while now.
Yeah.
So it's,
and especially how I think a lot of their modelers aren't in house. You'll probably know more than that. Do you know how many?
They don't have. Mantic doesn't have any, how to say, artist in house. They hire freelancers because not sure if Matt Gilbert said that or if I just got it once when I visited them.
I heard it somewhere, so I'm sure it's been
yeah,
said.
it's like the main thing is they don't have, how to say, not the consistency of releases to get a full-time artist there to work progressively on things, while at the same time have often too many things at once, so they need more than one artist at the same time. So this like why they are working with freelancers, but they hire more or less always the same people, so you get still a consistent style, because I think the one is Luigi, who is
that's the name I always hear. Yeah,
and there's a second one, and I'm not sure if I find that quickly because I am terrible with names, so I forget everything pretty fast. But there was also a woman mentioned that designed the vampire dragon for the world anniversary. So
I think that's their one of the issues. I mean, it's got to be expensive because like hiring contractors is a lot more expensive than doing it in house ultimately. And ultimately, that's where they probably would want to land is get some in house sculptors as well. Especially how you want that turnaround to be a lot quicker. I think the derpy Gil Stannis lion is a good example of like that's something you might be able to go in there and just tweak slightly to to help with some of the issues people have with it. But when you're contracting, it takes ages. So yeah, the planning needs to be pretty well thought out. I'm hoping they'll eventually get to that because I mean you would you want those one-off designs that maybe not fit into a release, but that people would really want, especially when we're looking at some of the gaps in the catalog, because there are going to be still gaps in the catalog of certain things, and you could even look in the new book, and there's a bunch of units there that still don't have models to like unique models to them, like the Order of the Green Lady technically doesn't have models for them, but yeah, you could use a paladin unit, but you don't actually have anything specifically to them. If you know what I mean, you could work on some add-ons that you could quickly chuck into the vault to customize them a little bit. So, I think that planning is so important, and I really think they're starting to get right. They're obviously never going to be perfect, and I don't think they could ever be 100% perfect without everything being in house. But I think they definitely have showing that they are making improvements, especially now that we're in 4th edition. We're really starting to see it, especially in terms of the models, because some of the releases, like the Orion model, looks cool. I like it, but I mean, I don't know what people that play this game a lot more regularly than I do feel, but I feel like it's a cool model.
Yeah. Yeah, I see. So Mantic needs to grow a little bit to justify for themselves to hire a full-time artist to look over things. But then again, it will be a big step forward to have someone in-house, because also artists talk different to other artists or sculptor about
Correct.
things.
Yeah,
and
the language is
design.
different. Yeah.
So if they have someone in-house who can do things on his own and still hire freelancers in case they need it, but the communication is different and things like that. So I think this is the next big step they're going to make is having the art or sculpting in-house for their models and future releases.
I think the advantage though is modern day technology allows the modeler or whoever they hire, if they do bring them in house, to be anywhere on the planet, and you can get a lot of talent with your talent pool that wide. It doesn't have to be someone who's like, hey, if you're gonna be a modeler for us, you have to be in house. It's like, no, like this is the kind of thing that you have so many talented people. Hell, you could hire someone that's from Weta over here, and they just work remotely, and then coming up with these amazing sculpts for you. So I guess that's an option for them. I find it will be a bit ridiculous to say, oh, we're going to hire someone, but they have to be here in Nottingham. I think it was like, well, dude, you're limiting your talent pool that way. So I really hope they explore that option one day. And I think they're definitely on the right direction, considering how many releases they're constantly coming out with Halo, with Kings of War, with the Vault, with a lot. It sounds like they've got something cooking for Dead Zone, and they've also got Dread Bull coming out. They've got so many things that you could, you're heading in the direction that to justify an in-house modeler. It's just obviously you don't know the budget. No one outside of them will really know how much money they've got to play with when it comes to that. But the minute they get it, they'll save money on contracting, depending on how much they're actually hiring right now to do, which sounds like a lot.
It still depends also whom they want. Like if they really want someone who is there at the office, it gets different to just hiring someone who works remote. But then even those who work remotely need to travel once in a while to the office, because you can't discuss certain, at least for me, and this is like a personal thing for me, is certain things are easier to discuss in person, especially when you go into the creative part of things. So it's much easier. Like I like my parents are artists, so and it's like when you know how it works. When you go to a customer and have things discussed, it simply works easier to get in front, face to face, and you show them something. I could draw it this way, and then say, nah, a little bit different, things like that. That works much easier when you are close together than doing it remotely, because there's always something lost. So, and if you have someone across the world that needs to fly in twice a month just to have a meeting, you understand when things get and say they want someone who is actually closer or being near the office. So it's
I mean, I'm talking from my perspective, which is not in the creative field. I'm a workforce planner by trade, so I deal with a lot of people that work remotely, and we do find, we were able to retain and keep really qualified and talented staff by allowing people to work remotely, and it's cheaper. Ultimately, it's cheaper. But that's in a non-creative field, which is a little bit different, which is a completely different industry. But I mean, I talk it from my perspective. So I think you're completely right when you're saying some things are easy to do in person, but I would never rule it out of someone working. I mean, a lot of, especially in the YouTube space, you see a lot of people that do a lot of editing and a lot of work for people. They're often based in different countries, and I think a big one is Mr. Sunday Movies is a YouTube channel that makes they make a podcast, and they make a lot of videos called Caravan of Garbage. A lot of the editors aren't based in Australia where they're based; they're all based in America. But that, it'll be interesting to see what they do going forward. I don't actually know enough about the industry to say how well it works remotely when it comes to doing this kind of stuff. Now, I'll be interested in going and diving into it, maybe look into some articles and something. I'm sure there'll be a lot of ex Warhammer staff there. They're a little bit lippy about it.
Yeah. Okay, I just can't find the name. So,
that's right.
That's totally. So I know it's. So if I recall correctly, it was from the Under Dragon is from a second designer, which is a woman, and she's also from Europe, if I recall correctly. But I forgot the name, and I just can't find it quickly because I know I've read it somewhere on the Mantic site. I just don't know where.
We'll remember it for the next Hangout. All right, we'll make a point. We'll note it down, and we'll figure out their name and make sure we give them enough credit.
Yeah, so sorry about that. Now let's jump to the next point, because also the Vault release saw some special characters for Dead Zone, because we got a new pre-made STL team. That's the Maldres clan hold, which we made a small little episode with Claudio to talk about it. So we got some standard models in there. It's the first time STL release, and technically 3 new sculpts. So 2 very unique ones and 1 changed one or adapted one. Meaning there's something coming for Dead Zone. This is the rules were released at the 1st of July, or the models released at the 1st of July, and the rules on the 2nd, so this should already out. If you want to go more information about this one, Dave will happily link the Dead Zone episode into this episode that you can check that out in detail.
You're giving me more work to do. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, of course. But as a tie-in for that release, we also got models for Firefight, because
I heard your dog. Don't worry.
Yeah, that's the point.
I've stopped editing the dog out now. I just let it bark. It's fine.
Because
let it run.
Because I don't know. Sometimes that's the main reason why I got that specific One Direction microphone. Because that should not collect any sound coming from the sides or behind, but then when the dog for one reason or the other gets really loud, I'm never sure if it's on there or not, or how much you can hear.
The funny thing is you pause to make it more obvious. So if you just ran with it, just powered through it, I'm sure you remember, like, was that a dog? And then just forget about it 2 seconds.
Now,
But
sometimes I need to pause because he's sitting right. Yeah, like now when he's coming into the room
yeah.
and he starts.
Knows you're talking about it.
Yeah, because sometimes it's just that he starts sleeping when I'm still with him in the living room. Then I go to record the podcast in the office, and then when he wakes up and notice that no one's is there, and then it's like
that's a loyal dog for you.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so at least because most of the time he's just still sleeping behind my chair when we record things. So it's like
I wish I had a dog. That would be awesome. Anyway, back to Firefight.
back to
So for the new
Firefight. So
models.
we got as a tie-in with the Dead Zone stuff, the Forge Guard released as a store buy-in, so they're not in the monthly packs. They are a Vault Store exclusive, which is the Forge Guard are still very nice plastic models. You get them in a single box. So for everyone who wants to print or is only printing, it's a nice thing. Also the Enforcer Defenders, because this was, I think, a plastic and metal release at the very beginning. So it's nicely to get them finally printable. The monocycle was released in resin before, as are the Nova Shocks. And the most important part is the half track for the Forge Fathers, because this was a PVC model, I think, or plastic and PVC combi model. It was more or less very hard to get in the past, because I think I have searched for a while when I played or fleshed out my Forge Fathers, and it was just impossible to get after the Kickstarter for unknown reasons. And if it showed up in a shop, it was often like expensive. This is like it's there in the Mantic shop for €20, and the problem was in the Kickstarter it had a not a wagon, how it's called. So it can carry a troop compartment in the back.
The
and this
personnel carrier kind of.
Yeah, so.
But I mean, it seems like that's what they're doing. That they're getting resculpts of previous models, which is good.
Yeah.
It really future proofs them as well. And I think this is just more of that. You know, I mean, you've been seeing that happen quite a lot with across their range of them future proofing. You see that a lot with the Kings of War stuff as well. A lot of the League of Infamy models that came to the Vault as well. It's just another step of them trying to future proof themselves, which is a very good move from them.
So I'm just trying to find a picture of the trailer. So the Vault store says Forge Father Ultra and trailer STL. So it should come with the trailer as well. So you get finally the full model. If you had troubles to get that pre-order, like me, I just can't find the very old pictures of the trailer. Here it is. It's not the actual original one. So as linking down, this is the. No, I'm not showing that up. This is the.
He's not showing for those that are listening. He's not showing it. He's trying to figure it out in the background. So you're not missing much if you listen to audio.
We are going to link pictures below. I just have to check it out because.
You mean I'm going to link pictures below? That's what you're saying, Matthias. You're not. There's no we involved.
You are going to we the how to say das höfliche wir. So we meaning Dave is going to be in post-production linking stuff together so that we can show this also on Spotify and iTunes. And the one thing I'm usually struggling when I'm not showing pictures or stuff immediately is then when I find something, it is very often in the wrong file format or the wrong size to get directly in there, and then I just need to check how to get it, because
It's alright. Well, I mean, ultimately, it's really from just that outside of all that, it's really good to see Dead Zone and Firefight get a little bit more love. I'm surprised that Mantic haven't done anything with Dead Zone since Halo has come out, because Halo is such like a close relative to Dead Zone. I would have thought it would be a really good time to bring out like a something really new and flashy for Dead Zone to grab those people that are really have really been taken by the Halo Flashpoint mechanics and so forth. So it's surprising they've kind of left it in the wind a little bit and kind of missing the window of showing, hey, you like Halo Flashpoint. Dead Zone's basically Halo Flashpoint, but with more bells and whistles and so forth. Here, why don't you just get involved there? So it's good to see that something's coming out, but I kind of expected them to put a little bit more out. And I know things are cooking, but I'm just surprised they haven't. That's all.
I mean, it's also you want the Halo community first to get trusted to Mantic and things before, because just going a different IP out and immediately go say, yeah, if you like that one, just play our game instead and things like that. Because one thing I have heard, or the most negative thing I've heard about Halo Flashpoint, is when people call it out as, yeah, this is just another company doing a quick IP money grab and let that game die after the first release and things like that. And I have heard this was already Halo got the third release, and people on social media still have said, yeah, this will only see a single box and then be cut off again. And this is like, that game is going for a while now. They have just renewed the license. This thing sticks around, and people, they will kill it off in half a year, and it's not worth starting. Is keep playing 40K. It's like just
I think they'll always will be pessimistic with it, just because people like to be pessimistic on the internet. It's just a natural thing. I think the only way to prove them wrong is to keep going with it, even if Lord of the Rings. And I always make a comparison because, funny enough, these two scenarios are actually quite similar. Lord of the Rings with Warhammer, everyone had that thought that, they'll just come out once the movies are done. That will be it. There won't be any more after the movies. It will just die after that point. It's just an IP grab. But it essentially saved the company. They kept going with it, and they kept on releasing more and more content for it. And even now, people say, "Oh, it's going to die out. It's just going to run out." And I think that is always the run of the risk of when you're licensed out. You always will have this, the license could expire tomorrow. It could be just not beneficial for them anymore. And that will always be a threat. And it's just a case of proving, hey, we're fully invested here. We're going to keep going with it as long as we can. And we're not going to make a half-assed product at the same time. And this is what it sounds like they're proving now. And I get your whole point of you don't want to kind of keep heading home and say, hey, if you like Halo Flashpoint, go to Dead Zone, because it makes it seem like Halo Flashpoint is maybe dying and you want people to move over before it dies. I completely get where you're going from there.
But the big but here is, for all those even if Halo Flashpoint at one point dies, which will be if the license holder, whatever company this will be in the future, thinks that Mantic doesn't deserve the license anymore, or Mantic says, the license is getting too expensive to make the game again. But then it's based on Dead Zone, so all your Spartans, all your Halo models in general are not gone, because you can still use the show that one again.
Yeah, I'm showing George off because I just finished George from the Noble team for Halo.
Yeah,
there you go.
So everyone, like the games or the game system, because they're using the same base, are close enough that even if Halo dies, you can still use Dead Zone or whatever edition of Dead Zone is released after that to play with your models. So nothing is gone. It's still an official supported game. Just for those who don't know, Mantic at the very beginning So even before Dead Zone first edition was out, they had a license for a Mars Attacks game.
Yeah.
With the problem that all Mantic license has, it was based on the comics or the card game or the cards, whatever this would be, not on the movie. So
Yeah, the same with The Walking Dead, I think. I think
yeah,
they
it's the
did
same
make
with
some Walking Dead from the TV show, but the majority
yeah.
of it was based off the comics.
So they got the comic book license. The same with Ghost in the Shell. They only have the manga license, not the movies. So they're limited in what they can do. And the problem is, like in Europe or most of Europe, nobody knew about the comics. So getting people to know the movie was a lot. So this was like a niche nerd movie that people liked. But the connection to a lot of units was missing because those were like in those comics only. And then you don't feel the game. So the license wasn't renewed. But we have or had the Martians as a playable faction right into third edition. So they came out before first edition was there. It was a tie-in with first edition because they shared similar rules, because that's on first edition, and the Mars Attack board game used the same base mechanics. Then we got the PDF rule for first edition, for second edition, and because second and third edition are very close, they was more or less still playable in third edition. So even if the license died off a long time ago, people can still play their Martians in Dead Zone as they're right now. And even in Dreadball, because there was a Red Planets team for the Martian models in Dreadball. So trust Mantic in that one, even if something unfortunate happens and Halo Flashpoint would die off for reasons unexpectedly very soon. Nothing is gone, and you can still use Dead Zone to play your game.
And I think the game, it's just like when a new edition of like King's War comes out. Third edition doesn't vanish. You can still technically play third edition if you've got the book. And the same with Halo. You can still play Halo Flashpoint if the license stopped tomorrow. You know, the rules are still in play. You still play it.
Yeah, you can do it. I mean, I wouldn't play third edition for reasons that they are not that different in the core rules.
I know, just make it hypothetical. That's all.
Yeah, but what I have seen or what people are doing, and they have done this with different games as well, is to use the old faction rules to play with a new edition rule when those games don't change a lot. Because, like, if you don't want to play new campaign armies or armies that are fleshed out with the new books against rulebook lists, just use your third edition army lists and keep playing until your books are released or your army gets a refresh with the fourth edition rules, and this should work well.
I mean, a lot of people miss the free dwarfs and you know, the Order of the Brother Mark now being integrated into the Basilean army. I think I'm a big believer of, like, in modern days you shouldn't restrict what people can do. You know, people should be building the armies that they want to do. And I think Mantic kind of know that to a certain degree, which is why they make it model and all stick most of the time. And so I'm really hoping they do a similar thing, maybe with the Dead Zone. All I'm saying, basically, how this conversation will start is just I thought they would have done a little bit more with Dead Zone by this point after the Halo Flashpoint release. And maybe, I'm just surprised they haven't.
Because there is a big Warpath release coming in summer, I think. So a general Warpath release for all Warpath games. So maybe we see something more happening there.
Yeah, we've been hearing stuff like that. It's just more of a case of, that's what I'm just surprised about.
So, and just going back for those watching on YouTube, we have had success with putting the pictures of the original Forge Father's half truck on there. So there's the concept sketch of the half truck and the trailer on there with the parts it's going to be. And I think a pre-release picture, because those were parts of the original Warpath Kickstarter. And this thing is now coming in as STL, so I don't know if it's coming in all those separate parts or being a new model design, but it's, well, I'm happy that it's there. And one thing I've seen is also people use those ones as an Iron Beast for the dwarves in Kings of War, because this model came out before the Iron Beast was actually got a model release in Kings. So people use their half tracks from the Forge Fathers there as well. So might also, maybe for those who don't like the Walker and want a more tank-like model, it fits the base. You can print it out for Kings of War as well. Right, then talking Warpath Universe, Epic gets some new stuff as well. We have the next range of Titans. Are those Titans? Yeah.
Yeah, super units, that they call them.
Yeah, super heavies.
Super heavies, there, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
You can tell I have never played my Epic Warpath.
So, no, I'm terrible with names. Because one thing why I struggle a little bit with the super heavies is because when the Kickstarter for Epic Warpath was going, I got into a little bit of discussion because I demanded that they should rename it to Uber Heavies, because it fits these things a little bit better instead of just going with super heavies like everyone else. Yeah.
I kind of like super heavies a little bit more. Sorry to play devil's advocate on it. I do kind of like super heavies better than uber heavies or uber units. Uber just feels, I don't know. I think Uber now just tainted because of the taxi service.
Yeah, no, it's a little bit, it's a tricky one but at the beginning this was like things, because everyone else is calling things super heavies, and just adding another game with super heavies in there, it gets like, but I also thought using Epic isn't a good choice, but this is just me in that kind of thing.
No, I get it.
Right, so we got 8 new super heavies. So for each faction 1, because at originally Kickstarter release there were 2 designed for everyone, and now they are officially released. So we have the GCPS small battleship, the nameless Psycho Molsk, the Vermin Great Underminer, the Blake Battlemech, which is just the GCPS Battlemech with, well, additional spikes. The Asterian Edis Cladewarden, the Forge Fathers Nida Villier, Drop Fortress, and the Marauder Chimera Gunship, and the Enforcer Maven Command Tank. I like most of them. I think the Blake one is something, I mean, they got a big monster as the first super heavy, and now being more it's just an overtaking GCPS super heavy as a second one, so that's like the least exciting for me. And I like the Drop Fortress for the dwarves. I have to say this.
Yeah, I've always been a soft spot for the space dwarfs, so yeah, I like them. I like it.
So that's the one. Releasing the super heavies also mean we should expect that the next batch of STL releases will happen, like the first 4 factions were buyable as a full STL. Not just the add-ons, but also the core set was available as a buy-in, also for those who participated the Kickstarter and only got the add-on STLs because the core was plastic. So this should happen around this month for the next month as well.
Yeah, it should be also worth mentioning that this is the first new content that we've had for Epic Warpath since the initial Kickstarter, and I think that's one of the big things about this release is the fact of, Dungeon Saga Origins the crew that are probably sitting on the sideline with their arms up in the air going, what the hell? What about us? But ultimately, Epic Warpath, this is good for the health of the game. And we've seen that probably with something we're going to be talking about later with Armada. We've seen what happens if you constantly support the game. You end up giving that door open for people to come along. Yeah, maybe not flying off the shelves. Yeah, maybe not number one on the charts. But ultimately, if you're constantly drip feeding content to a game that may be on the outskirts of it, you're giving that door. You're keeping that door open, basically, what I'm trying to say. You're allowing new people to come along and find the game. And I think if they continue doing what they've been doing with Armada, and introducing new stuff, maybe not massive big releases every single year, but little releases to keep the content fresh, keep the community talking about something, they're going to keep on slowly breeding that community.
Yeah. Mantic is still a small company, so you can't expect like a new release for every game every 2 weeks like others are doing. But at the same time, this is also overwhelming for people because you don't want to have too many releases and things. But I see a lot of people, or some people who are not into the Mantic bubble, just come along and see, okay, the last release for that game was 6 months ago, so I think it's dead, not longer supported. But it's like, that's not happening. It's not everyone is as large as that other company that can justify a new big release as every single week. And so Mantic, when they have like once a year or every half year a large release for their games, this is already enough and important. And you're still casual player for the most part. You can't play everything at once anyway. So it's
correct, yeah. And I think the key to it is making sure Mantic let people know as well, because you make a very good kind of point there, Matthias. When people find a new game, they come going along and say, is this game dead? Is it still coming up with updates? One of the first areas they would go to is probably on the Mantic website, and they would not Google it, or they do a search of saying when was the last release of a particular game. And that, I think that's where they're kind of failing with the Armada stuff. With that is the fact of there's been a new Armada fleet released, and we'll probably talk about that next. But there's been no article on it, so the only way you would really know is that if you were like well attuned to the Armada community, or to the Vault or something like that, you wouldn't be able to see a news article about it.
Yeah, and I think that's the problem, because they're still focused too much on Facebook for those kind of things, because like Clive, or in general Mantic, is doing a lot of those STL or digital focused releases on Facebook only. And so you are not getting a lot of this out in the world, because of course you release it to your community, to the things, or to the people who appreciate it, which is something we get, but then not having news articles about those, not making wider announcements. So people are not aware that things are
the only ones
happening.
that really use Facebook. Millennial gamers are the only ones that really use Facebook. If you really want the next generation of model gamers, you're not going to find them on Facebook. Facebook is...
I don't use Facebook, and I'm a millennial, so if I wouldn't go onto the Mantic Discord to check out once in a while what is there for on the vault, I wouldn't know about the Armada stuff. So it's...
Yeah, agreed. And luckily they've got Alex now, who's come in as the new kind of media kind of guy.
So calling him out if he is listening to our podcast, so maybe there's a chance that he now gets an idea that there need to be a little bit more news about those side game thingies. Also, the novels need to be more pronounced. Talking novels, let's get into that one first, because there's a new one coming. We have a new old one, Rage and
it's already
Race.
out.
Yeah. With Dear Jester was released, so I already bought it as a digital ebook, because I do mostly ebooks reading in general, because then I have a backlight ebook reader, so I don't disturb anyone else when I'm reading in the middle of the night.
And we should make a mention that Rage of Grace is what it's called by D.R. Chester. That's Danny Gray's, for those that don't know. He was the one that helped do the. I think he's doing the Ogre Fracture review that's coming up. I think probably, I don't know when it was. Not this week, probably the next week. Yeah. And he also did the Forces of Nature. So he uses a pen name. So you've heard of him on the Mantic Universe podcast before. And it's the first novel that is really an elven novel. And that's the first time we've actually got anything specifically just an elven for. Yeah, we've touched on it. I think you get a lot of it in Stand at Callenspire. But I think this is the first kind of all these different elves are kind of in this book. And if you like Sylviankin, which unfortunately are no longer a faction, but they're still around. If you like the Fae, if you like Night Stalkers, you like Twilightkin, this is definitely one of those books you want to pick up.
Yeah. So definitely. I already have it. I have it on my reading list. I haven't looked into it yet. And according to the author, it was written a while ago. So it took some time for the right release window for it. So which is also something that you need to keep in mind, that things are developed well into advance in the timeline. Just because Mantic isn't the company that just release what they have just finished, so they're still waiting for the right time on things to release things. So things can take years to develop, can take years to work on, can be done for a year already before they got released. So not everything that is out is just often, not to say, a coincidence that it happens at that time, because it was written or developed long time ago and just not a direct reaction to something else that it's out there or released from a different company. They are hardly that fast with their development or in general.
Yeah. And I think, you're right. Rage and Grace has been cooking for a while, even before, I even got involved into doing the Mantic Universe podcast. And I know Brandon, who works on Wing Hussar, he's been waiting for the right window for this. And that's the hard bit. You don't want to release a book that's not really related to anything that's currently coming out, because it might leave a bit of a sour taste, people getting the book and thinking that's related. But from what I'm hearing, I've heard really good things, and we don't want to go into spoiler thing. We're going to get Danny on to a lore episode to really talk about it and get through some of the meat. I tend to have a 6-month embargo on the wiki about putting any spoilers or anything onto it. But from what I'm hearing, and I'm currently reading through it myself, it's good. It's definitely, if you like Glade Walkers as well. There's a good Glade Walker lore as well, which is the walking trees. I think it's rather interesting. It'd be interesting to see how much of this stuff they incorporate into the wider lore going forward as well. So it's exciting.
Yeah. And let's jump to Armada then, because we have a Redkin fleet being released in the vault. So with your monthly pack, you get the first part of the ship release. Next month should be the second part, and after that, I think it will be available as a standalone purchase as well.
Yeah.
So this is something about Armada, because they went more or less completely digital with everything for reasons. Think it's a little bit sad that it's just digital only at the moment, and new stuff only being available as a digital release instead of physical ones. But maybe once they figure out how they're doing print on demand over the world, we get a little bit more again.
I think it's disappointing, but also I think it's the best way to keep the game alive. It's not a game that is the top of everyone's buy list, and so you have to kind of figure out a way. How can we support a game that still has a good fan base and a loyal fan base, also keep the door open for new people to come along, but also doesn't cost us negative money every single time we drop a release, because that kind of investment, doesn't pay off for a while, and you have to have deep pockets in order to sustain, like, every time you come up with a new release, put it into the shop or have a physical thing to put into the shop. And I think this is the best workaround they can do it, and I'm really hoping they continue doing it. And I mentioned Dungeon Saga Origins before, because I hope they start to look into maybe doing some stuff with that, because I do know they had, some of the Facebook groups that I see do want more content when it comes to that, and it's the best way of doing it. Yeah, maybe sad, but the fact that they're still doing it is exciting, and also it's also hinted that there's more coming. And probably Zakali army fleet makes complete sense considering the lore, but they're constantly supporting it, constantly coming up with more, and they clearly are seeing something, because this is all being released on the Vault. They will have metrics of how much these armies are being downloaded, right? How much the STL is being downloaded, so they'll have the details of it, and clearly it's doing something, and they're hoping to continue with it for, I don't know how long they're planning on continuing doing it, but they clearly have got more plans, and they could even go back and re-release some particular fleets with new models, new sculpts, and so forth. I think the Ghost Army is a good example of them being able to just go everywhere with it. So anyway, that's my spiel on it.
I mean, it's so. Good thing is things are supported. They're getting new releases. We also get so from a lore side an interesting development, because how the ships are in general larger constructs of the world. What is there? Because we do not have buildings, so we don't have an architecture outside of the artworks for the world that is in there. We don't know how orcs build their fortress, how a Redkin fortress looks like, how a Redkin village looks like, or how an elf castle or tower will look like. But given that we have this ship design now that also from time to time has some neat little details on them, on how the basic architecture of the faction would look like, what you can imagine of how they would build their things. And then this helps also a little bit to flesh things out. Even if you don't buy the models, you just see them and know, okay, this is how Redkin are going to live. They have this dystopian steampunk vibe, you would call it.
They do, yeah.
So it's an industrialized to a point. They mimic the Abyssal Dwarf, but in a bad way. So they are not up to the skill to just rebuild exactly what the Abyssal Dwarfs are doing, but they still try to get into the same base. So they're expanding on what they have learned from them.
So for the lore context, for anyone that's curious, the Ratkin were created by the Abyssal Dwarfs. So that's why you see a lot of their Kings of War models. They've got the Abyssal beard, and they've got a lot of kind of Abyssal-esque kind of armor kind of looking like. So their ships are kind of like an extension of the Abyssal Dwarf fleet that we've seen, and that it's kind of integrating that. And yeah, it's a little bit more rougher, a little bit more kind of like constructed and kind of bits and pieces, but it's still got that Abyssal Dwarf kind of feeling. And it's great to see. And it also kind of it ties into the lore nicely, because in the Martyr Seas of Dread, it is actually mentioned in there that the Ratkin were floating around on a nest city, and there was a warlock called Nikesh Venomclaw. I always put him down as a pirate, but it does mention that a vast number of sloops and boats drift idly around entangled masses of rotting hulks. And one of the actual ships is called a Plague Hulk. So it kind of ties nicely into the established lore, which is really exciting to see, that despite the fact this is just a random release on the Mantic Vault, it still has some good lore tie-ins there nicely as well.
so this thing, so they're really going good at working those things out and tying pieces together and have a consistency in the world that is important for people. Is just so we do not have retcons, we don't have loose. I mean, we have loose ends, but we don't have the individual games existing in a vacuum. So what happens in Armada is there in the wider universe, and things work together. So, and the biggest question that we have now, and I'm not sure if anyone can answer that, or maybe we get some ideas out depending on who is listening. The big question now is if there's a good chance that the Redkin champion, if they get one, will be a pirate or not.
I don't know. I mean, they haven't really done a lot with Ratkin with 4th edition.
Yeah.
So with 4th edition Kings of War, they really haven't touched on it. Yeah, I think there was one story on the road to 4th edition about Ratkin, and I think there was mention of a Ratkin raid in one of the short stories of, I think, Invasion, I want to say, in the Invasion book. But there really is that they've left Ratkin to the side, which is a bit unfortunate because I've always seen Ratkin as one of the victims, you could say, factions, even though they are, people classifying them as evil and dark and all that. They were essentially a race created by the Abyssal Dwarves to be enslaved, and then they rebelled and finally got free. And they kind of feel a little bit sympathetic to me. But the thing is that they've never really had any really good established lore put in there about what's happening with them now that they're free of the enslavement of the Abyssal Dwarves. Are they going to, continue being this menace that's spreading throughout Panathor, or are they going to go, all right, we're trying to change our ways. We're trying to not become the vicious, rats that everyone sees us as. So I've been quite interested to see where they're going. So far, we haven't really had anything, and I think a Kings of War champion would be a good, a good view into the direction they're going to go with Redkin.
I mean, it's like my son is playing Redkin, and he developed his own twist on the lore because he never really got that they are evil, or he more or less was surprised on seeing them that those are actually evil. But then it's like, I mean, you have a Redkin demon in there. It's not like you can summon
the abyssal.
A big
you got the abyssal influence, and they have that how they're constructed. They've got those layers. Yeah.
The vibe in there, like the bullet one who becomes a bully themselves after they are evolving. So there's this as well. So it's more like a tragic story rather than something evil. But at the same time, the more or the longer Redkins are free and the more they spread out, the more they can develop their own society and go into different direction if they want to. So it might just be to have a different clan or kin or nest out there that develops into a very different direction and can go anywhere you want. And this is, I think, so we could maybe see something.
Now, you mentioned something quite interesting there, and it reminded me of something. So I've got the Invasion book quickly, and I'm trying to find the map, because on the map of where the Zakali are, I can't remember, it was like Noradel to the west. I think it was the west-east now, it'll be to the east. Up to the top, there's the Steppes of Shun. And I wish I could show it on the map, but on the Steppes of Shun, where the Hoarlands of the Orcs are, there's a place called Festifer. And I've always interpreted Festifer, with the first spell, F-U-R, being a Ratkin, place, a Ratkin kind of city. So that could be some lore there of what you're referring to, of them establishing a city, a town, or settlement, of something in that regards, and them developing some kind of hierarchy or some kind of culture in that. And it'll be interesting to see whether they go down that route. And I think that's some of the fun that we have with Panathor. A lot of this stuff isn't fleshed out, and it can really show their unique, stamp on it. Because Ratkin are always in Ratkin, in Warhammer kind of side of things as well. they've always been seen as mean, dark, And if
Yeah.
you went to my girlfriend and say, rats are disgusting, all that, she would object. She had pet rats and she loved them. They're the most kind, most affectionate kind of creatures, and they always get a bad rap. And you never really get to see that in fantasy of that kind of like the realities of what a rat actually is, incorporated in the cultures that, the ratkin are in fantasy. So yeah, I'm interested to see it. I feel like they're going to go too generic with them, just make them the classic kind of evil Ratkin, but the possibility is still there because we don't know enough about them.
And there's a progressive timeline. So this is another advantage, or a big advantage, of being progressive with your time in here, because just Redkin aren't this thing now. They can be that in future, because if there's a new nest building or a new city developed that progresses in a different way, so like in the game span of 50 to 100 years, when the time progressive, when invasions are over, so 50 years are a lot for a rat in general. So they have a shorter lifespan. They use magic, they use industries, so they can have quicker generations, quicker development, dive into new technologies and new societies. And when they so this is like, can be, maybe we see something. So I'm really curious on what's going their storyline to be with the upgrade in the campaign books, because it might be that we finally go away from the Abyssal Dwarf origin and get into some new society stuff, or get new upgrades.
Yeah. I hope that too. And I think it'll be awesome to have this kind of idea that, the Ratkin are trying to prove that they're different and they're good and all that, but everyone's got the stereotype of what they were and they can't shake that. And I think that's a very unique, a very real thing, because a lot of people have that when they're trying to like change who they are. Good example, you go to prison, you get locked up for a while, and you come out and you're trying to be a better person for society, but everyone's still got that old mentality of who you used to be stuck in their brains. You could do that with a whole faction of like the Ratkin trying to prove that they are this noble, this kind of like do it for the greater good kind of thing. Obviously, you've got a few outlier Ratkin, which you always will get. Humanity could be as good as ever, but you always got evil humans. There's some interesting storytelling you could go with it, but if you make them blanket evil, I think you lose a little bit of that. And I think that's why bad guys are sometimes not that interesting if they're just bad, because it's easy to be bad. It's harder to be, it's harder to be like, do the right thing even though you don't want to.
I mean, it's like
a fight nature.
This is something that we always said. The bad guys, no, there are hardly anyone thinks of himself as being the bad guy and doing this intentionally. So like a lot of the
guy doesn't think they're the bad guy.
Yeah, like a lot of the most evil things that we consider as evil happens by people who want to do, who themselves think they're doing good for the world and not going into this. So for the Redkin, this would mean they're still doing experiments on their kind and develop mutants and things like that, because simply this is what they know how things work from their Abyssal enslavers or Abyssal Dwarf enslavers. They building industry-like, steampunk-like construct, because this is what they know how things work from the Abyssal Dwarf. But then it's like, maybe, and this is purely speculating because I don't know anything, we could see that Redkin are going to prove themselves as a loyal and friendly thing to the good case when fighting off the Xekali in a future book.
So I would like to see it, because they have to do something with them. Because with every book, they try and tie the story in with the faction that they're talking about, which I think it can be a bit of a double-edged sword on that one, because, especially with the new Fracture book, after all the story you plugged into the Xekali and the Halflings, you didn't really get a lot more of that story progression. You kind of said, oh, we're done with them now, let's move on to something else. There's a little bit of a bugger when it comes to that kind of stuff, but Ratkin needs to play a part in the story that they're telling. So it'd be interesting to see how they come up, whether it's going to be more of, they're kind of hinting something down in the Ophidia, something happening down there. Or they could tie it in with maybe the Abyssal Dwarfs at the same time with that release as well. So it'll be interesting to see how they tie it in and how much of an influence they'll have in the story. And I'm hoping they end up being that faction that somehow saves the day, just because I think it would be a very noble kind of, now everyone's changing their perspective of Ratkin, and it's really messing with their brains a little bit after years and years of fighting them. It would be interesting to say, the Ratkin just saved us. How do we deal with that? How do we react to that? You know?
What
yeah, it'd be interesting.
That could be, or like split the Redkin similar as the dwarves into different sub factions, that you have the good guys who help the others
free
go
Redkin.
into the free Redkin would be an interesting one to just go into that route, because you also can then have two technology levels on the armies, the one who are more into the mutants, the demonic things, and the others who are go more like in construction and those kind of things. So
imagine if they merged the free dwarfs and the Ratkin together. So now we went from Abyssal Dwarfs that had slaves.
I guess this would blow a lot of people's minds. So this is like if the free dwarfs and the free Redkin go together for a democratic society to fight against evil empires. This is like okay. And
what would you call it? I don't even know the name you would. What would you call it? I don't know. If you've got a suggestion for what that kind of faction would be called, leave a comment below, because I'll be fascinated of what name would come up with that.
The Free Republic of whatever city name they will develop for this one.
Yeah, Free Republic of Ratatonia.
Yeah. Okay, then for that one they need to get halflings in there. So,
well, halfling they've established.
Then you get the Ratatouille.
Yeah, well, in the Argument of Stone, they established that there is a clan, a free dwarf clan, called the Green Something Confederacy, which is a free dwarf clan who have merged with some halflings that were exiled from the League of Roidana when all that went down. So it's been done before that there is something. So you just need to take it one step forward. Yeah, the Green Valley Confederacy. All you have to do is take it a step further and put Ratkin in there, and then you'll be done.
Yeah. I mean, that's a general thing, because there's a big invasion ongoing. There's a big war in the world. So the post-war societies, how things change, will be interesting in general. So it's also, we know there's a dwarf civil war going on that is more or less resolved shortly before the invasion, or while it's going on.
No, it's not. So what Fracture revealed is that the civil war is still ongoing 4 years later. So the Argument of Stone takes place in 3866, and Fracture takes place, I think, in 3870/71, and it is noted in there that the Civil War is still going on. And I have had, people kind of hint towards that being confirmed, that the Civil War is still going on. So we've got the Zakali War going on. We've got the Civil War of the Dwarves going on. We've got the Shining Ones and Wicked Ones, wanting to issues going down over there, and then you've got the forces of nature kind of putting their stamp on the world as well. So you've got a lot of these different conflicts, they're all happening at the same time, which sometimes can be a little bit overwhelming, because there's a lot to tell.
So all kind of possibilities out there for new stuff, for old stuff merging, for different kind of lists. So might be an interesting one. I mean, I'm just thinking about a dwarf, because dwarfs have also their steampunk and tinkering vibes, so they might work well with a Redkin ones tie in there as well to get the more technical engineering clan going on. So dwarves who want to go more into mechanics, and have Redkins who are good at improvising things, so you get this engineering thing. Those could be an interesting
And
thing.
manpower that
Yeah.
they can provide a lot of manpower to build the things that the dwarfs plan for. There's a good possibility there, and I think that's what's exciting is that we don't know, and we don't actually know which direction they're going to go here, and so many other factions as well. We don't really know where orcs are going to go. I've got a feeling they're going to do the boring generic orcs are evil thing, which has been overdone a million times, but I do think Ratkin has got an option to do something really unique and different there. I'm excited for it.
Right. So just checking our show notes. And yes, this time we have show notes.
It's pretty much just us just typing in a Word doc and just hoping for the best. That's pretty much it. I think we covered the majority of everything.
We covered the
right?
majority. So the last part that we have now is Ghost in the Shell is going live or is already live as a fundraiser campaign on BakerKit.
No, I don't think it is. It's in 20 like
no, it's not the main
days or
campaign live. It's just because BakerKit has this tier levels of campaign. So it's like the pre-campaign is now live, so you can comment on things. You can already reserve a pledge and things, and then it goes. So it's not like a classic Kickstarter. As you know, it is a little bit different. So it's also the campaign doesn't have a fixed date, I think, but they go as soon as people stop pledging for a while or start doing it, and then things are shutting down.
So why did they go this way instead of the Kickstarter way? Was there any clear reason why they did the Baker kit instead of just doing the normal
The
Kickstarter?
official reason I was told is that this site is more related to RPGs in general than Kickstarter.
Okay.
And that's a reason why they choose to do it there instead of going with a Kickstarter where they usually do a model-heavy game and not an RPG.
Okay. I don't know if that will pay off for them, mainly because Ghost in the Shell is pretty niche. And the problem is that that's niche, and then you're using a niche backing system, website as well. I've got a feeling it's not going to expose it as much as they probably would need to get it off the ground. But with Kickstarter, at least you're only just the niche product rather than the actual service itself. I was just surprised by that, and I don't know whether this is an indication of how they're going to do things going forward, or is it just a once-off kind of thing that they're doing here?
I mean,
because I'm looking at it right now, it doesn't look like it's had much uptake. So,
yeah, hard to tell because I don't know the site in general. If this is working, I only know I got some problems with the payment because
you're seventh on the leaderboard, though. I can see that.
Yeah, because I have made some comments. So it's like, yeah, there are some problems with my credit card because for one reason or the other, it's a European country that is niche. Not the first time I have problem with paying online in that regard, but it's like, so I'm hard to tell what I should expect there if things are going as expected, normal, but it's in general from all the games up there, it's pretty much RPG focused. So yeah, let's see how things going. Also, let's see how they are doing. How to say, if we get late pledges again in a Mantic pledge manager they use, and if people can join later on, because this is like, how to say, Ghost in the Shell is pretty niche, but at the same time, when this goes live, there will the new version of the anime being already released in several countries on Netflix. I think
Good point.
There is a lot of commercial things going on for Ghost in the Shell. So the original company really invests in the marketing, because I've now seen Ghost in the Shell themed keyboards and other stuff being released as well. There's a re-release of the original manga already on there. So this is like, so from that point of view, it's a good tie-in with all the other Ghost in the Shell releases. So this should work out, and yeah, let's see
I hope
how
so.
Baker
I
Kid
mean,
works out for them. We know there are models coming as well, but I'm not sure if they were going all on Baker Kid or if this is something Mantic is coming up later, because it's like the game is released instantly because everyone who joins in gets a digital copy once the campaign ended. Already out. And then you have to wait about half a year to a year until you get your book, because until everything is printed and things like that. So we will see how they use the time in between for marketing and to get things done. Because it's like, if the big sales happen at the actual release, when finally the book is available and maybe new models and things, if this is combined together, this could be bigger than the actual release campaign.
And I know you've done a couple episodes now on the Ghost in the Shell thing, and I know there's a lot of passion behind it. Alessio really wants this to succeed. So if you are interested, I would suggest getting in there, and also just spreading it around, because you may not be able to afford it, or you may be limited on your funds. But if you put it out there, that's just as much help. So definitely kind of spread the word on it. And I mean, it's like the Hellboy RPG. It can work. And I've always wanted someone to start a Hellboy RPG kind of show on MUP, and it'll be great to get a Ghost of the Shell show going. That would be amazing. On MUP, that would be really interesting. So yeah, I would say go support it if you can, because if they show that there's interest there, they'll do more stuff like this. And I think that's the one thing we ultimately want. We want to get away from. We want more people in this kind of space that's doing it right. So I'm really hoping they go down that route.
Yeah, let's see. I mean, for Ghost in the Shell, the most tricky one is that they're... So sorry about my voice in getting late for 2 hours now. But the tricky one with the RPG is, in general, that there already was a Kickstarter for a different one that wasn't that well received, because there was another company got the license for the Arise anime, but only for that anime, which is like the problem when you aim for the original comic book or manga license and all the content. Someone else can grab the anime if they focus on that one, but they can only use the anime. And they were like, Alessio started working, or Mantic or River Horse Games acquired the license earlier than them, worked longer on the RPG, but the others released it first. So that's like bad luck. Okay. But they didn't have the tie-in with the manga, therefore, because they released late last year. So like completely standalone from the original new manga releases and anime based on the original manga stuff. And so this is a different thing. And that one wasn't received very well for different reasons, because they used a quite niche system as a base, while Alessio went for a unique system. So this isn't based on anything else, but like his own development on an RPG system, how that he thinks works best with the theme of the setting. And from everything I've seen, this is very well done. It should work very well. Everything is really thought through to work as an RPG in that case. So, unlike the Hellboy, because I think Hellboy was still based on D20 or D&D.
I think D&D, yeah.
Yeah. Because this is also a problem when you put out an RPG that is based on something else and they change edition or release something new in between, you're always lacking behind or not up to date and things like that.
Yeah, I think that's the issue with RPGs at the moment, or at least tabletop RPGs at the moment, is everyone thinks it's every tabletop RPG is just D&D, D&D
Yeah.
system. And I think getting away from that is so hard because a lot of people that just play D&D are less likely to pick up a new system if it's too different. And it's been a problem, ever since, Critical Role kind of made it so mainstream, is that everyone that, watches Critical Role expects the RPG systems that they go play with to be similar to that. And it's not. I mean, they came out even with their own Daggerheart. And I think it's so hard to get people on board with new systems. And I think the minute it goes strays too far away from something they're familiar with, they just drop it and it just doesn't get picked up. So I get why, and I think it's an extremely hard balance to get right. And there's not many systems that seem to break out of that kind of problem. Sadly, it's just one of the problems that they have with it at the moment. It's just like even tabletop gaming. If it's too, different from Warhammer or 40k, they can never get off its feet, and that's why we're so complimentary with Denzone and for Halo Flashpoint is the fact that they were able to break away from their system, use a grid system that's accessible and people are really on board with. And it's so difficult nowadays just because there's so many options. So that's the thing.
Yeah. I mean, being different and being the same, there's the point of being recognizable for people. But then you have to go with also have some cliches going on and things like that. I mean, people call, when I would compare 40k to Kings of War, and people say both are I go, you go, and the games are nothing alike, because I think 40k hasn't. So when I go, you go means whatever 40k is currently doing, then Kings of War is something completely different.
Yeah, and it's hard to break that out. And I think I think that the only way to really get ahead is for cost and accessibility. Is that accessibility? How do you jump into a game without you breaking the bank and investing so much money into it beforehand? Luckily, I think Mantic do it right, because you can get the rules for free and you can actually load up on it, and that's when you can decide where you want to put your money. But the problem is the more the prices go up and more it comes in line with Warhammer's pricing or Games Workshop's pricing, the harder that argument is, because people don't want to invest in that much in a system that they're very unfamiliar with. And not
I mean, that's why free rules are important. You need to test the game or get people the chance to play the game before they invest money, just to check if they liked it, because then you get just a positive loop out of that one. Well, otherwise you get a negative loop. So, I have invested so much money, now I need to play it because to make my money worth, even if I don't like it, and things like that. This is a negative loop, this fallen cost, sunken cost fallacy, and things like that. So this is like, and then people talk bad about that game, but still play it because they think they need to play it, and you get frustrated players, you get a negative community, and you don't have fun playing.
You get Games Workshop. You basically get Games Workshop. And I think that's the system worked in the 90s and 2000s. It doesn't work nowadays because there's just too much competition. And I think cost is the one thing that's really driving, especially the new generation. The new generation aren't getting into this because it's too expensive.
A good thing with cost, because you have like the Kings of War works with multi-bases, so it's basically up to the people how many models they want to get on their bases. Like, there's always the balance between what looks good, what are you able to paint, and how much money you want to invest.
Yeah.
So you can get away with your personal decision. Say, I don't want to invest a lot of money. You can play Kings of War with empty bases. Just print out a top picture of the models from the web store, put it on an empty base, and say, this is my army.
Yeah,
and you can play
that game.
You could
technically do that. You could put down anything and just call it whatever.
Yeah, but just if you really want to make, like, you be sure which unit is which, print out the pictures from the web store and put them on the empty bases, like on cardboard, and you have this on a budget, depending on what your printer costs or the ink for your printer. It's cents, and then you play Kings of War, and then you can still get like a month of single month subscription of the companion to get the full rules, to make as many army lists as you like, print out your army lists, cancel that subscription, and then you have everything on paper you need to play. That's like the cheapest way possible, and you think, let's call it 10 euros you invested into that game to play out of it and decide if you like it or not. So this is wargaming on a budget. And
well, you have to nowadays, because like this is the issue with wargaming, is that the younger generation aren't getting into it because they just don't have that money to expendable. Once you get to your 30s, your 40s, yes, you got that expendable income. But right now, people are just struggling to keep their heads above water. So if you're expecting people to fork out like £100 for one of the starter kits, they're not going to do that. And that's where I think a lot of companies haven't really adapted yet of working out how can we get the young gamers in that only have $20 a month to spend on their hobby because they're so desperate for $20 New Zealand, I don't know, $20 something. They're so, they're just trying to buy food the next day. So if you're able to lower that price, and I think this is where a lot of people got pushed away from Mantic with the recent changes of the price of the models being so expensive. They need to really highlight, hey, we're going to show you how to get into this hobby for less than X amount of money. And your example that you showed there, Matthias, is perfect. You can get into Kings of War for less than $20. And you can get a month of content, print them off, do all that, and then that can start to, that can start the addiction. You can start listening to podcasts, start getting more invested in it. And I think you make a very good example of like showing, the generate. I mean, I say this like an old man. I'm a 38-year-old that's on the heart transplant list, so I feel like an old man. But I think that's one of the bigger issues I hear is just the accessibility is so hard because it's an expensive hobby. And I hate the argument of the fact of it's always an expensive hobby, so why are you complaining? No, the companies that are making the hobby make it expensive. The reason why the pricing is the way it is, Games Workshop don't need to be charging as much as they do. Everyone knows that, but they do because people will pay for it because the people that are the sunken cost fallacy. But you're not getting the new generation coming in. You're not getting that new blood that you want that will help advertise your game.
Mantic is doing a good job. They are trying, so it's not like they have bad intentions in here. They are trying, so
100%.
So they need to get into that, creating a positive loop that people play their games because they like playing their games and not
show the fun.
Obliged to do it because they have invested a lot. There are cheap ways to entry. I mean, Champions is really doing a great job in having an entry-level rank and file game. So this is like
correct
from everything out there. Before Champions was released, I would have rated A Song of Ice and Fire as the best entry-level rank and file game. Because they use pre-built models, they are PVC models, they are pre-colored PVC. They have like a rather smallish game size because they still have this sideboard or a political sideboard game going on, so it's like on a smaller scale, so easier to entry, no model building, you don't need a lot, so it's rather it ticks all the boxes for a good entry level game, and then with Champions it turned things around. So I rate Champions higher. Despite you have model building going on, you have to paint your models because they're not pre-colored plastic and they need assembly. But at the same time, you don't need to assemble your models to play because, as I said, it's a classic rank and file or rank and flanks game, so you can play with empty bases.
Yeah.
You can progress as you play. You don't need to put all your models at once on your base. Just if you're a slow painter, you start building a model, put them on the bases with blue tack, play the games. Then you start painting the first model, put the painted model on, then start putting the next painting model. So you can play while you paint them. You can play while you build them. And you have pre-made army lists, so you don't need to think about that. So it's you can play while you develop your hobby, and this is something I rate very highly here for champions. And because these are small boxes, so they're reasonably priced. For what you get, you don't need to use all the models for that one. So you can get 2 models away for experimenting, for trying things out. So if you build something wrong that you don't like, it's not wasted because you have enough models in there to go around. If your first paint job isn't the best, you can decide to not use that model and just use the 9 others you have there, like if an infantry base in there that use 10 infantry models. If you put 6 on there, it still looks good. So if you have, you have 4 spare models to try things out for painting when you really are a newcomer, and like the first model doesn't look good, nothing bad happened. The second model looks better, but still not happy. The third model is what you have. Paint the remaining 7 as it is, and you still have your complete regiment without feeling wasted or missing something like in other games. So this is like where this whole thing comes together, because you don't need every single model in there. And once you're good enough with painting, you paint your champion, because then you had 20 models to learn how to do things. You paint your hero and you're good to go. And you are happy with the army you have and things work out, and then gaming. And
and you're always going to get better, because just like with every hobby, it's like I don't paint well. I'm not a very good painter. That's why I never show off my stuff on MUP at all. But I like doing it, and it's. I think the problem is a lot of people get off put is like, if it's not, what you see when you look at the model in the store, it's shit. It's not. It's not. It's like it's just like any hobby that you get progressively better and better and better at it. And you have to, if you accept you're going to be shit to begin with, you only will go up there from there. And because everyone is crap when they first start, you learn so much. Some of the most seasoned painters still learn a lot of stuff from other people, from other people's techniques. And I think I think that's the big thing people need to start showing, is show people, how bad you can be, and just go from there. Show, and also start showing the fun of the hobby again. I think that's the one thing I did enjoy about the recent video that Clive and Ash did about Halo Flashpoint. Start showing the fun a little bit more, showing why the game is enjoyable. And because I think too many people get bogged down rule specific, and we get all nerdy with the rules and how they're interpreted and what's the best meta on that. But at the end of the day, it's a game that you play with little figurines. Show the fun a little bit more, and that's why I hope Mantic continued to going down of just once a month, play one of their games, show people having fun. And it doesn't have to be the guys that design the game. Probably better if you don't show those guys, because they will be so bogged down on how things are played and all the other stuff. Just get 2 random people, maybe even just get Alex to play as well. Just show how much fun it can be. And I think that's for me personally, I think that's what feels like is missing at the moment in the landscape of showing the fun.
Show the average one, like how the average gamer can play that game. How easy is it going for someone who just play once in a while and not the expert? Because that the one guy who designed the rules will have fun with his own game, obviously this is just the thing. But how are the regular ones doing? But this is also something when we're talking paint jobs in the shop, which a lot of people see as a negative, but I appreciate from Mantic that they are doing like average paint jobs when they're showing off the model.
I don't know. I wouldn't say that all of them are average, but I would say, they're definitely not like.
I mean, they have some very good ones on. They have some of the heroes, like the Lord of Lies, are those are pro styled. They are from people who do display models, obviously. The new dragon as well. But then it's like a lot of the infantry is in a very basic paint job, and I think,
which is good. I think that it's good because you don't want. I think that's. I get really off put when I paint a model and it doesn't look good, and it really detracts from it. But being able to show like, hey, you're not going to be perfect. There is, you can always improve. And yeah, I completely get what you're coming from that one though. You're right.
Just need to check. Okay.
Um,
I just want to show
yeah.
off one example, so give me a second to get
Also,
the
actually,
picture.
that makes it actually another good point. They should come up with some painting tutorials, I reckon, on their website, just showing you how to get some of the. I mean, I get that their Mantic isn't it's not like Army Painter or anything like that. They're not that kind of company that sell paint. So doing a tutorial will get them there. But I really enjoyed the tutorial that Army Painter did for Master Chief. I learned a lot of how to, and I got my Master Chief where I wanted to be because of that. Yeah, it doesn't look exactly like it, but it was a good start. I'd love to know how to paint the grunts, for instance. Um, I have no idea how to get that tone or anything like that. So I do hope they do a little bit more than that because I really enjoyed the Master Chief video that
Yeah.
Army Painter did.
I mean, might be nice if they can get Army Painter to do some tutorials on things, and
Probably
show off
costly though.
some model painting. So showing up this one. So this is like the
That's their older ones.
That's the older ones. That's also an alternative theme. So they are still sold under, you find them Kings of War,
I
Abyssal,
think it's the
Forces of
5th
the Abyss.
edition one. Yeah.
That's the old Vanguard PVC D&D Demons and Devils pack they're selling off. It's showing also an alternative skin color because you have blue-skinned Abyssals instead of the red ones. But the paint job is very basic. So there are no big advanced techniques in there, like the clothes and armor is mostly just black with small little highlights. You got some OSL in there with everything that is closer to a flame is reddish painted, but this is like nothing that I would rate pro painted. I mean, it's definitely professional painted, but not like those. It's tabletop standard, we would call that in the past, and not something that you put on a display somewhere.
Yeah.
So really something. So this is, if you look at this picture, this is something like I would say this is achievable for someone who just, I want to recreate an army looking like that and say, yep, that's doable, without getting frustrated or learning a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think people get bogged down too much of like if their painting doesn't look good, then it's shit. No, it's something that you always will improve on. And even I struggle with being happy with my paint jobs, but a lot of the time I have to remind myself the only way I'm going to get better is by just making bad jobs and just trying better. And you can always strip the paint at the end of the day. Sometimes it does damage the model. It just depends on what the model's built off. But normal like stuff nowadays are pretty sturdy. So getting like paint stripper or getting stuff to get the paint off is typically not so model damaging than it used to be, just because of how the quality of models are built nowadays.
Yeah, definitely. So there's a, not sure if you want to do that, but the other possibility, you don't need to get strip the paint off, but you also, when you learn certain techniques, you can get back to your model and just start highlighting them, because when you paint your first models without highlights because you don't know how to do it, that's fine. You still can go back later on them. It's also certain techniques also need that you varnish your models before you progress. So just having the base colors on them, varnish them to make them playable, or to go easy with blame, and you still can go back and start painting again and things like that. And also inks or speed paints or thin, whatever you would call them, helps a lot with fleshing out rank and file armies. So this is a big improvement here. So you don't need details on a 20 model infantry unit that where you see just the front rank and the last rank and everything else just from the top. So nobody cares if the knife somewhere on the trousers or in the belt is painted or not.
Yeah. To be honest, when you're playing someone, they don't care like how great your army is painted. Yeah, they may, if it's something stunning, they'll make a comment about it. But if your army doesn't look good, they're not going to say anything, and also they're not going to judge you for it because they'll be like, all right, let's just play. The rules stay the same regardless of how well you painted your model. You don't get
everyone is going to be happy
because of it.
Yeah, everyone is going to be happy if you painted your army. It doesn't need to look good if it's already painted. If they see you put effort into it to make your own colors, to recreate your own army, to make that gray thing your own, they will appreciate it playing against it. And adding that, the other advantage with Kings of War, much more than the other games, is because you use the unit bases. Basing can be easily hide bad paint jobs. You build 100%. And if you're not good at painting but know how to build dioramas or how to do modeling stuff, and just because for whatever reason you're better with that one and you focus on making great bases in Kings of War, your armies will look great. Like and sub-average paint job with just the basic colors and great bases will still look great from a distance on the table.
Yeah, agreed. 100% agreed. I think it's always something that people get put off by entering in the hobby of like, oh, I can't paint well, so what's the point? And a lot of people forget it's just like any hobby. It's like you're like building a car. You're not going to be great building a car when you do it for the first time, but if you're building a 50th car, you're going to get a lot better with it. So it's just one of those things that I think, again, it's one of those things you have to show, and I think it's a hard message, and you have to add into the fact of that's when the cost becomes a bigger factor. Of like, oh, I'm not going to paint my model good, so why should I spend $50 on something that's just going to look horrible? Or like you have to just kind of show why, outside of that, why it's a good idea.
I mean, you can also calculate this the other way when you say you have a big resin monster that costs you €50 and it takes you 3 months to paint it. You got 3 months of hobby for €50.
Exactly. And then there's that kind of stuff I think is too glossed over. I think people pointed out a lot enough. It's not about the end result. It's not always about the end. It's about the journey. I think it's the Star Trek Voyager kind of quote.
I mean, it's all But in our hobby, the journey is the important part. It's the journey and the friends you make along the way is the important thing here, and not the finished product that you put on the shelf. So
and I think a lot of people also look at tournament play and think that's how the game is played, like in silence and everyone just making moves and not really like having a laugh, especially when you're watching, Clash of Kings, like last year when you're just watching the live stream. You're not really hearing a lot of the fun stuff that.
But this might be a language problem
when you're right in front of them. Oh yeah, it could be the English. It could be the
English because that the one thing with Clash of Kings live stream is when you have an international tournament, there might be the Polish player playing against the Italian one, and none of them speaking English.
Yeah, true. That's a good point. But yeah, that's the main point about it. I think we just need to start showing the fun a little bit more, especially from the generation that can't exactly spend as much money as probably we could into a hobby because we're old and we're like expendable income because we're silly.
Yeah. I mean, I have to say,
we don't spend it in town.
A lot of chatting during my game, and also have a lot of fun with announcing stuff. So being the I would rate myself as an introvert, but then in gaming, in calling things out with, cheering my models when they do something good, and then laughing with my opponent when things happening, and so there's still interaction in there, even if there's a language problem and things. So this is like great. So I guess we need to do battle reports at one point, but then it's like, Not us two playing the same game actually, because this could.
I don't think that would work. I know. Me and Mark have talked about like more Mark specifically, because he did with mini works. He went and played champions with them, and it wasn't a few videos. And it was something I've always wanted Mark to start doing, is doing his battle reports and so forth. And I've even suggested chucking a few dollars to help make it happen. But he's not very good with the camera setup and all that stuff. But I'd love for to do more battle reports and maybe an ongoing series on the channel, just showing that kind of stuff. I think it's just a case of, well, I'm obviously in New Zealand. I've actually never met in person anyone that plays Kings of War, so I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. But it would be great to start seeing that kind of fun. I'm thinking of a strategy to try and play some Halo Flashpoint after my transplant when I'm stuck inside because my immunity is shot. Of figuring out a way I could live stream me playing a game with two people, and I just move the pieces, so they message me the moves and I show it, and just something like that. Just I've been planning something like that, and I think that would be a lot of fun. But I have to figure out how that setup's going to work, and because I've heard the biggest thing about after getting a transplant is just you go a little bit stir crazy. So having little projects like that is going to really help me. Let me get through it anyway. But yeah, I think that's all the news. I think we've covered pretty much everything.
And we are under 3 hours, so at least it's what it's
it helps with my editing, so I'm happy with it. I guess you've got anything else, Matthias, you want to cover before we end it?
Nope. I think I said everything I wanted to say, more or less. Otherwise, yeah.
There's a good amount of news. I broke my chair during this as well, and I have fixed. I've done all my my Noble Squad models. I don't know if you can see. All of them are done now. So now it's a case of deciding whether I actually want to paint them or file them away for another time when I actually need them. But probably I'll be focused on trying to fix my chair that I only bought last week, which I'm a little bit annoyed about. That's why you hear like all the leather kind of squeaking now, because I've broken the chair, which is a bit annoying.
So it's like so two achievements unlocked.
Yay! But yeah, this was a lot of fun, and I think we should say that we've done a different release strategy with the Fracture updates. We've kind of spread them out a little bit. I think everyone was dumping their updates all at once, and we kind of made a conscious decision just to kind of spread it out a little bit. So hopefully, by the time this week. When this episode's coming out, I think we're going to have the Basilean army one, and then we're going to have the Ogres the following week, and then me and Mark are going to do a lore review. I think spreading it out, giving people a chance to actually read or look at the changes, and so they can actually relate more to the changes. We
tried to make a little bit a deeper review this time, and not just a brief overview on the embargo day for everyone to jump in, because it's like... might also be interesting that people listening or watching to them once they read the rules and got their own impression, and then check back on our opinion is and how things progress and develop, because it's also like we have, how to say, tried to get people in who know the armies and have played it and what they are thinking about it, and not just reading the rules out. So this should also help to new players to get an impression when they're not sure which faction they should play on, and what to choose with the book or what to think about the book, because just reading the rules is one thing, playing the army another.
Yeah, agreed. And if you got any questions, just join the Discord and post it in there, because we've got a lot of people in our Discord that play the game on a regular basis. And keep in mind, as we said on the anniversary episode, the Mantic Universe podcast is for all Mantic stuff. So if you do have an idea, you want to come on the show, you want to talk about something, you're more than welcome to, and especially when it comes to talking about a particular army, because we always try and get a MUP Kings of War series going, and there's only so much you can talk about once you cover all the new stuff. So you want to kind of talk about the meta, you want to see how it evolves, you want to talk about tournaments and so forth. And because this is the MUP Hangout is going to be a regular thing where we talk about the news and kind of dissect a little bit. If you've got a particular tournament you want to shout out, make sure you post it in the Discord. We'll pile them up and we'll read out all the tournament stuff that anyone's mentioned for the next episode as well, because we really want this to be a community kind of run kind of thing. We're always going to talk about the news. Some months are going to be a little bit more meatier than others, and so sometimes we're just going little tangents and talk about other stuff. But I think the way we're doing MUP at the moment, I really enjoy, and I just want more people to be involved, to be honest. So I think there's so many different voices out there that should be involved.
Yeah, you only can cover, as I say, it's a little bit tricky to cover games or armies you don't play, actually, because it's like, then it's just an third person view impression instead of a direct one. Yeah, that's right. But we try to get more things done, and as real life happens, and to spread things out. So if you have any certain wish, dear listener, for future episodes, what we need to cover, what we should talk more about, just leave a comment. Do it on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, on the Discord. You can also email us, whatever you like, and just tell us what it's good about, what it's bad about, what you want us to talk more or less about. And I think before we are now reaching 2.5 hours, we call this a day for Dave and a night for me.
Actually, I'll mention one thing before we sign off. I know anniversary episode, we tried to make an effort to thank everybody they remembered. We did forget somebody, and that's Brandon from Wing Hussar Publishing. Big shout out to Wing Hussar Publishing. Brandon's been also a huge advocate of, he loves the Panathor universe, and he's dealt with the books for nearly 10 years now, and a lot of the reason why you see any of the books is really because of him. He does all the editing, and he's been really great and an awesome person to speak to about stuff that's coming, and all the authors have as well. Talking about Mark, Ben, Scott, Danny, obviously. I'm gonna forget one. Mike Rossi. Jojo, look over there. We've got Joshua Reynolds. I'm gonna look at my bookcase at the moment, and a whole bunch. And C.L. Werner as well. Rob Berman. All the authors, and it's really exciting to see where this comes from, because I do think there's still quite a lot in the Panathor universe there where we can take it. So I figured a bit of shout out to Brandon, because he well deserves it, and definitely doesn't get appreciated as much as he should.
It's an interesting one, because with the professionals I forgot to mention some people. Dave edited people in and still forgot to mention Brandon. It's
okay. We cut out the bit where this is a little bit inside. If you've waited this long for 2.5 hours,
you deserve
I'm going to give you a little background. When Matthias was giving his thanks, he goes up to the Halo. He talks about the Halo crew, and he thinks the person's name is Adam. Who doesn't? Yeah. Never had an Adam on the show ever. I don't know where. I don't think MUP has ever had an Adam on the show.
No,
but he thanks Adam, and then he pauses for ages, and then thanks Ash. Ash has already been on a couple of episodes, so he completely forgets about me and James. And I'm like, okay, I feel super bad, because if we don't thank James, and that's the main reason the Halo show exists, is because of his knowledge, I would never forgive myself. So I've recorded a bit of a bit, jumped in, and then I still forgot Winchester, who I wrote down on a piece of paper to make sure I wouldn't forget. So that's the joys of us.
That's the problem. This is how my brain works. It's like, I remember that one name, and I think it's because being dyslexic is that kind of thing. So that one person I'm thinking about, it's something with A. Yes, James. It's starting with an A. Yeah, James. Because I was just looking up on the names we had for the show, and I don't know which show I just watched and just saw a name. Okay, it must Ash. That's the most similar I find.
No, I think you click the Halo group, and Ash is the only one that uses their actual name. I don't think James uses their name either. But yeah, it was just quite inside baseball for you. But I've got ADHD. I say stuff out of my butt all the time, and like I should go, I really should just not say stuff and not write it down, because I often forget immediately what I've agreed to the minute I say anything. So I completely understand saying stuff that you end up regretting as well. So, but anyway, that was just a bit of a inside baseball kind of tidbit before we sign off.
Yeah. So, dear listener, so if you stayed that long and got our little bit of background information, the bloppers, as you want to say as well. So I hope you enjoyed this episode, and wherever you're listening, I wish you a good morning, day, or night, and goodbye.
See ya.